Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. We get together most weekday mornings, Mondays through Fridays, at 8 o'clock Central to talk about strategies, tips, share success stories, support each of you. As a 50, as a nonprofit, are focused, a 501(c)(3), we are focused on two elements, two mission statements, two areas of concentration. The first of which is building financial literacy, and the second of which is increasing access to capital. Let's just jump right into our topic today, which fits nicely into both of those. How many have heard of the term blank check financing? Sometimes it's called blank check companies. Have any of you heard of blank check financing or blank check companies? It's actually one of the hottest financial trends. So I don't know if you watch Bloomberg in the mornings as I do, or if you read the Wall Street Journal, but there's frequently success stories about companies that are using this model to be able to access financing. And it is a resource that you and I can provide to small businesses and entrepreneurs. So let's go ahead and get started and go through it. A blank check company is a company that is established with the specific purpose to raise capital. It's legal, it's innovative, used to raise millions of dollars through low cost financing, and we leverage the Fundable Shelf Corp as the foundation. Because what have we said so many times? If you want to have access to business funding, we need to have a fundable business. And so we always have to start with a fundable business. A lot of people don't have that. Here's a great example. If you went out and asked most people that's looking for money to start or grow a business, if you ask them what's keeping you from getting funding, they're typically, more often than anything else, they'll say credit. My credit's bad. Well, that goes to show, well, because credit's never going to be a barrier, right? Credit's fluid, credit has no memory. We address credit with the Shelf Corp. So, no, credit is not keeping anyone from getting business funding. What is typically keeping people from getting business funding is they don't have a fundable business, they don't have a foundation to build off of. This is a quote from Sanjay, and I don't know if you've heard of Sanjay before. He's one of the professors at one of the top MBA programs in the country at Kellogg School of Management. Here's what he had to say about blank check financing. And this was published in, I think, the Wall Street Journal. Whenever you give a blank check to anyone, the person looks at you like you're nuts. It very quickly leads to panic. Internally, they're saying, oh my God, what do I do? This is not a joke. So think about that. If you're out there trying to educate entrepreneurs about how they can access funding and you and I, how we can help them through Fundable Shelf Corps, what if you started your conversation by asking, hey, if I could give you a blank check right now and you could fill in whatever amount of money you want, would that be of interest to you? So Jennifer, if you were to ask your top 10 prospects, how much would you like written in on this blank check? Do you think that that would get them interested? Do you think that they would start listening to you? Do you think that would be a good door opener? I think it would be. And that's true. That's how blank check financing works. It's backwards, it's the reverse of what everyone else thinks. We start with the number they want, and then we build the paperwork to support it legally and ethically. Nothing gray, nothing fuzzy. So, according to Sanjay, there are a number of advantages of blank check companies. Now, my background with blank check companies started when I worked at Deloitte. So I guess at what age 25, coming out of my MBA program, I went to work for Deloitte. At that time, it was called Deloitte and Touche. Now it's just called Deloitte, one of the world's largest and I think most well-respected accounting, consulting, and investment firms. And so we were working on an early iteration of blank check companies back in the mid 1990s. Now it has evolved, but let's go ahead and talk about the advantages. The business owner has the ability to select how much funding it receives, that blank check concept, by leveraging forward-looking statements with lofty estimates developed by qualified technical advisors. So there's a lot of important terms in this. Let's break it down. So our goal, your and my goal, is to help other people solve their problems, right? And you and I can make a shitload of money by solving other people's problems. The problem that you and I are solving is most of these people, they want money, they need money, but they don't qualify. So we need to help them have a fundable business, as we referenced. So our target audience are either current or prospective business owners. By using the blank check approach, again, still using a shelf corp. So we're not changing the deliverable. We're not changing the entity that allows this to happen. We're just looking at it from a different perspective. And so what we do is we develop the financials and the documentation to support the amount of funding that is desired. And obviously, all of us have worked at Deloitte or one of the top consulting accounting firms. All of us have worked at the SBA. So we're very qualified to put this together. Because if you just took the business owner and the business owner just wrote up a bunch of projections, do you think that the lenders would see that as credible? Probably not. It's too self serving. So what they need is an independent third party. It's almost like a feasibility analysis, and that's where we come in. Second bullet, a blank check company can provide a faster and less costly way for entrepreneurs to raise capital. So often you'll run into clients or prospective clients who'll say, oh, no, 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 I already have a business. Why don't we just use my business instead of getting a shelf corp? Well, theoretically, we could do that, but now we have to spend time and energy to go evaluate what are the current circumstances of the current business and then start making change. It's almost always a longer road, a more expensive, a more exhausting road to go fix something than it is to provide something that's already ready to go to funding, which is this Fundable Shelf Corp. Bullet 3, they can theoretically access an unlimited amount of capital. And we included this bullet because so often people want to know, well, what's the cap? What's the max? I can give you examples of blank check companies that have raised well over $100 million. So I don't think that there is a cap. But what we have to remember, this isn't a game of Monopoly. I'm not saying this is something too good to be true. We're going to have to be able to justify that capital raise by developing the statements and the documentation. So we're really good at that. But obviously, I would say the first tier of funding goes up to 5 million. So anything at 5 million or below is kind of standard. Once you get above 5 million, sure, it's still possible, but it's much more complicated because there's going to be less sources for that larger amount. But technically, there is no cap. So if you're asking someone, hey, if I could give you a blank check, what would you write in there if you could have any amount of money you want? They can put whatever they want, but keep in mind, if we do go above 5 million, it's a lot more complicated. Fourth bullet, blank check companies are legally compliant. Nothing that we do or we talk about is going to be gray, fuzzy, or compromise you, me, or the client. We won't do that. There are strategies that are out there that are not legally compliant. We won't get involved with those. So we're going to first identify the target capital raise. We need to know from the client, how much do you want to write into that blank check? What is the amount? And then we need to backfill in the support documentation, the financials, and the credibility element. So again, not too good to be true. We're just working backwards. We're saying, what do you want? If you could have any amount of money to start or grow your business, what would you fill in the blank check? Then we need to back in and support that legally and ethically. Now, we all know that the shelf corps, the fundable shelf corps, come turnkey at 100,000. So if that's what they want, great. We already have provided them what's going to be needed. We'll be ready to go to funding and financing immediately. If they want more than that, that's okay. But now we're going to have to go start editing the documentation, the financials, and improving the credibility elements. So First 100,000, everything's prepackaged for. If they want more, that's fine, but it's going to require edits. A blank check company can start accessing financing funding in less than 2 weeks. And so that timeline is based on we need around 7 days to get all the deliverables over to the client for the Shelf Corp because and people say, oh, 7 days, it seems like a long time, but we have a lot of clients to process and we have to work with Secretary of State, we have to work with the IRS. So there's just a lot of moving parts, but we need about a week. But once we get the Shelf Corp over to the client in about a week, we're able to start using it right away. It's theirs. So those are some of the advantages according to Sanjay from one of the top business schools in the nation. Let's scroll on down. Let's look at some of the financing highlights because none of us are a fool, right? If we're going to fill in or our client's going to fill in some big number on the blank check, it's not free money, right? We are not talking about free money. We are not talking about come get hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars and it's free money. That's not what we're talking about. That's unrealistic. So with that being said, it's a loan, right? So it's going to need to be repaid. So with that, we're going to talk about some of the financing highlights. And so we have numerous lenders that we can go through to fund these blank check companies. However, we have a preferred lender that we're focused on using, which we announced Monday of this week. So we have low credit requirements. And again, we never worry about credit. I said this before, but I'm going to be redundant. Anyone that comes to you and says, oh, credit's my problem, we need to let them know credit's not your problem. Credit is not your problem. Credit has no memory. Credit is fluid. With the Shelf Corp, they get access to our legal team to improve credit. No. Credit, you're looking at the wrong issue. It's like being in a burning car and it's like I have a hangnail. No, your hangnail is not the problem. Your car's fucking on fire, right? So no, credit is not your problem. It may be an issue, but it's not the problem. The problem is, do you have a fundable business? Until you help people become educated enough to see the real problem, they won't appreciate the solution that you're providing. Credit's not the problem. Credit's not the problem. Repayment terms are normally 10 years, 120 months. That's the norm. You're going to have people say, oh, no, I need 20 years. I want 40 years. Can't promise that. The norm is this 10 years. If they can't afford to pay it back over 120 months, maybe they shouldn't borrow the money. Sorry to say that, but maybe that's the case. Interest rates are low, so we don't have to worry about that. Again, we have delegated loan packaging with our preferred lenders, so we know exactly what they want, which we're going to talk a little bit more about in a moment, and we're able to provide that to them. Funding's fast, and we can use the money for just about anything within legal terms. So sometimes people say, well, why would I want to get a Shelf Corp? I have this other company and I need money for the other company. Well, sure. So the Shelf Corp can borrow the money, can access the money, but then that money can be transferred to your other company either as a loan or as an investment or through services. It's not a problem to move money from one business to the other legally. What else do you need to know? And again, we covered this on Monday. There are a few additional elements that we need to follow this approach, to follow this strategy. It's not a real big burden, but again, we just want to be transparent. We are going to need to put together a debt schedule, but we have the template that the lender wants. It's a simple one-pager, not going to be a barrier. If the client is using our buy now, pay later, and most clients are, right, are not. Most clients, they'll buy the Shelf Corp from you. We'll send them the finance app. Most will get cash offers. They can stack multiple offers, but they get cash offers and they pay you, and it's through normal cash funding, cash loans. That's the way it normally works. If you have someone that's a little less well positioned, a little more downtrodden, then we can help anyone that wouldn't get normal financing through a buy now, pay later. The point of the second bullet is if they are on the buy now, pay later, the lender wants a notarized attestation where we're going on the record saying, yes, that client has paid as agreed. Because guess what? If the client's not paid as agreed to us through the buy now, pay later for the Shelf Corp, that lender has about zero interest in taking the risk of loaning them a whole bunch of money. So, of course, them paying their bills on time is what anyone should do anyway, but it's one of the additional requirements. And thirdly, we need a PFS. PFS stands for Personal Financial Statement. A lot of people don't know what that means, but let's break it down. PFS, Personal Financial Statement. So, no, it's not the business financial statement. We provide that. We know what the business financial statement is because we're providing the Shelf Corp. So we don't need your help figuring out about the business, but what we do need is the personal financial statement. But we have a template to use, is what the lender wants. Client creates a first draft, and then we legally and ethically can optimize it. How does one get a blank check company? So we're going to help them assemble the document set. And it's exactly what I said earlier. So when they get a Fundable Shelf Corp from you, one of our resellers, one of our grant coordinators, we have the document set that's frankly ready to go if they want 100,000. If they want more than 100,000, then we're going to have to do some edits, right? Because it's preset for 100,000. Not a problem, but that's what we need to do first. We work directly with the lender's senior underwriter so we can walk those deals through. Cannot legally promise that 100% will be approved, but frankly, our expectation is everyone will get approved. Support and resources. If you're not a grant coordinator slash reseller, real easy to do so. No cost, no contract to sign on 509 Pacific. It's not get rich quick. And that's where we lose a lot of people. You take someone like, let's see here who we have. Take someone like Zahn. When we go to Zahn and say, Zahn, we can get you 5,000 up front for each person you refer in, and 5%. So if it's $1 million capital raise, 50,000 on the back, 5 on the front. So you're looking around 55,000 for a typical client. To me, that's a lot of money, but to some people like Zahn and to like Varney, 55,000 a deal is just not enough to motivate them. They're making more money elsewhere. But regardless, it is what it is. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. You're not going to make as much money through our model as you would if you're working directly with Goldman Sachs or others. But you could reasonably look at around 55,000 per deal. The key is doing multiple deals, doing some sort of volume. Because if you're doing several a month or several a week, then it is quite a bit. If you're doing once a year, what's the point? We primarily want to support folks through our support line, 903-347-8042. Some people will call that number and become frustrated. It's not answered live. It's not a live call number. It is for texting. That's why we call it text. Now, we do have receptionists. We have 4 to 5 receptionists staffed pretty much at all times, Monday through Fridays, answering our main number, 903-200-8781. All right, so let's get to any questions, comments, concerns you have. We're going to try to wrap it up early because we have a ton of deals we're trying to get into funding today. Kenny says, will this work for Michelle and her 66-acre development project? Yes. Answer is yes, Kenny. All right. Jennifer says she likes this approach. She needs help with the PFS. Okay, so we send everyone the PFS through an email template. They're instructed to fill it out to the best of their ability, send it back to us, and then they schedule a one-on-one, and then we'll go through it with them and help them optimize it. Can't lie, can't cheat, can't steal, but there's certainly a lot of opportunity to create a strong PFS. All right. Kenny says he needs to offer this to Michael. That's fine. Yeah. So I'm here educating you about how blank check financing, blank check companies work. The foundation is exactly what we've been doing, what we've been talking about. So we're not changing our deliverable, but I am offering you a different approach of how to explain it to a prospect. And if you were to ask them, hey, Margarita, and she's on the Zoom, Margarita, if I were to give you a blank check and you can write in any number you want, and that's the amount of money that you would receive to start or grow a business, what would you put on that blank check? get quiet, you remain silent, you wait for the prospect to respond, and then now we have a meeting of the mind. She's going to say some number, whatever it is. Well, great, let's go accomplish that, and we can help them accomplish that. All right. Well, with that being said, I encourage you, if you are a reseller grant coordinator, let's go out and help people. I mean, that's your role is to educate and enroll and make an adult income. If you're not a reseller or grant coordinator, it's free and simple and easy to become one on 509 Pacific. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day. Bye-bye.